Welcome to Wrestling's Hottest Audacious Takes, hosted by myself, Aaron Rift of NoDQ.com. In this video series, I read some of your boldest opinions about professional wrestling, and then I give my responses. Let's take a look at today's topics. Sting is better than The Undertaker. This is a question that is very subjective. It depends on what your criteria is. What do you consider to be better? I think that both men had amazing careers, Hall of Fame worthy runs. However, The Undertaker had one thing that Sting did not have, and that was the streak, the WrestleMania streak. WrestleMania is WWE's Super Bowl. The Undertaker went year after year after year on an undefeated streak. It was legendary. No other wrestler can boast that. The Undertaker's winning streak was truly one of a kind. So because of the streak, I think I have to give the edge to The Undertaker and disagree with your opinion. WWE is currently the best it's been since the WWF days. I lived through the Attitude Era. I was obsessed with the Attitude Era, and this absolutely mops the floor with it. This is another question that is very subjective, and it depends on your own personal taste. I lived through the Attitude Era. Nothing could really compare to it throughout history. However, I do feel that there were aspects of the Attitude Era that did not age well. Certain storylines and characters, you look back and you wonder, what the hell were they thinking? I think today's era definitely has better quality wrestling. The athleticism today is higher than I feel it's ever been in the history of wrestling. When it comes to creativity, nothing was quite like the Attitude Era. They were trying all sorts of different things. It was a renaissance of wrestling. I would say the best era of WWE is the Attitude Era, just because of how exciting it was to watch. To me, it was must-see television, and as great as today's WWE product is, I cannot say that about modern WWE. It is not must-see to me. Thus, I have to give the edge to the Attitude Era and disagree with you. AEW would have way more fans if they didn't do these indie spot fests, 45-minute matches all the time like Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson. That is the audience that AEW attracts. AEW is built on high impact, exciting, lengthy, competitive matches with the most athletic performers in the world. That is what brought AEW to the dance, and that's what separates them from WWE. Is it a niche product? Yes. It does have limited appeal. However, there are definitely a sizable amount of fans out there that want that type of wrestling. To them, that is professional wrestling. AEW, of course, would have more fans if they changed their formula, but then if you do that, you risk losing the fans that you have. It's a tough call, but I do agree with you that they would have more fans if they changed up their presentation. That just depends on what they want to do. I don't think AEW is that bad right now. I've seen a lot worse, to be honest. I think it's an enjoyable product. I like the people that they're pushing. It may not be perfect, but at least feels different in some way from WWE, and I love the fact that they've been using different venues. AEW has had its ups and downs. It had a down period, and now it feels like maybe they are starting to build up some momentum. The key is to try and draw in fans that do not like WWE. AEW is the alternative. As long as they can be a compelling alternative to WWE, there will always be a place for them. Sometimes you have to change things up though and give fans something new and exciting to watch and take chances creatively. There's a balance in all this. I do like some of the changes that AEW has made. It's all about adaptation and being able to change with the times. Too many cameras ruined wrestling. 3-hour wrestling shows killed pay-per-views, making WrestleMania 4+ hours and now 2 days long to get almost every wrestler on the card has watered down and cheapened WrestleMania as a whole. I somewhat agree, but I also disagree as well. I think that in general, there's too much wrestling programming. I do feel that the marketplace has been oversaturated. I feel like we've gone the opposite of how things were 15, 20 years ago. When WCW was sold to WWE and ECW closed, all of a sudden WWE was the only game in town. It was basically a monopoly and it sucked. You either had to watch WWE or try to find an independent promotion to watch. Eventually TNA built up a fan base and then other independent promotions grew popularity. It took a while. Now there's just so much content with digital media today. Wrestling is easily accessible. You can watch any promotion online, find the YouTube videos, and you can be satisfied. But you know what? Sometimes you can pick and choose, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. There's plenty out there, depending on what you were specifically looking for. To me, that's a positive. But yes, I do feel like the oversaturation has made it hard to enjoy some of these big moments and major shows like WrestleMania. Liv Morgan is overpushed. Great in-ring worker, but by Lord. I disagree with this one. I do not think she is overpushed. Liv Morgan, for the longest time, was not really being utilized to her fullest potential. It wasn't until the heel turn that her character really began to shine. She's always been strong in the ring, and she had that following. People were trying to get WWE to push her. There were movements. People felt that Liv Morgan deserved better, and now she's in a higher profile position, and I feel like she's made the most of it. She deserves her spot in WWE. I think she's doing the best work of her career. I do not think she's overpushed. Ethan Page and Ricky Starks are not stars. They couldn't hang with guys like Kenny Omega, Will Ospreay, Swerve Strickland, and Hangman Adam Page in AEW, and in NXT, they were exposed for how basic they are. You could argue that nobody in NXT is a star because it's a developmental brand. WWE is trying to build them to become future stars. It takes time. It's a process. Fans have always seen potential in wrestlers over the decades. Same thing applies to Ethan Page and Ricky Starks. People saw something in Ethan Page way back to when he was working with TNA/Impact Wrestling. People like myself saw potential in Ricky Starks when he was in NWA on NWA Power. I was watching that show in 2019. Ricky Starks was one of the standouts. He could talk. A lot of guys can't. Ricky Starks could cut a good promo. Ethan Page can be an effective heel. These guys had momentum in AEW, and I think that's why a lot of fans were frustrated, because these guys were on the verge of becoming stars, but then AEW never really capitalized on their organic momentum. Now it's still a building process, and yeah, I would say right now in 2025, they are not stars, but they are on their way, and if they continue to develop and get better, they very well could be major stars in the future. That concludes this edition of Wrestling's Most Audacious Takes. What were your thoughts on these opinions? Leave a comment and subscribe to the No DQ YouTube channel for the latest wrestling news and discussion.